on the next episode of
Mimi sikuja hapa kufundishwa mapishi bora.
Bingwa potea huyu. I lost. Ili mtu mzima tena alivokosa kabisa ni kunifanya mimi kama kijakazi wake. Yaani mimi siku nyingine napika chakula, yoje sema nini? Hatio, mara chakula hiki sikitaki, nipike kingine.
Sema tata huyu bwana. Haambiliki.
Lakini ametuelewa.
Tujali kazi zenu.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
You know, I really don't get it.
Get what?
Why me? I mean, I try but clearly you're not interested.
Sisha, it is the starting point, and if you expect me to show you romance, then you're a small boy to me.
Trouble in paradise?
Guys, please keep it down. Why are you two fighting? And girls, you can be loud.
And this is why I keep my things simple and professional.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Wiki hii kwenye mkulima tutajifunza ukuzi wa fenesi.
Ukishakula fenesi, ile sehemu ambayo ubaki ya nje, the cover hii ya nje, ni chakula cha ng'ombe, especially wale walio na ng'ombe wa maziwa. So unakatakata vipande vidogo, unapatia ng'ombe. Kwa hivyo hakuna part kwa hii matunda ambayo tunatupa apart from the central part.
Kisha kopia watufunze jinsi ya kufuga kuku ndani ya greenhouse.
Kuku inakuanga na faida mingi kama mimi. Inaweza kuwa fermenting, inaweza kuwa mboga. Kitu kwanza, mayai iko, unaweza pata uzo upate pesa.
Basi ungana nasi Jumapili saa 9:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa uondo kamili.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I came to the house at around 5:30 in the morning. I was so tired, I just went to sleep. Few minutes later, she woke up and poured sulfuric acid on my face and ran away. So I woke up to try and get some water to reduce the burns. But when I stepped on the floor, I felt a shock. She had connected electricity, the heater, and poured water on the floor. So the current was flowing. So when I stepped on that floor, I felt a shock and I became even more confused. So I screamed and my colleagues came for my rescue. They took me out of the house and I was rushed to the hospital.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Ni kawaida kwanza siku vikawaida, lakini pale ukawaida unapobadilika,
umma una hamu na ari ya kupokea mambo yasiyo ya kawaida kutoka rubaa za kimataifa.
Watu na maisha yao,
mazingira,
biashara na uchumi, michezo na taarifa zinazoboresha maisha.
Ndilo jukumu letu.
Ndio utamaduni wetu.
Ndio ukawaida wetu.
Dunia wiki hii kwa ushirikiano wa KBC na shirika la Shinua kutoka China inakuletea taarifa za kimataifa kwa ufasaha.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Nimekuja leo kwa sababu ile simu ile uniambia nipeleke mtoto wako. Nipelekea mtoto wako.
Una hakika?
Niko na uhakika na kazi yangu boss.
Okay, sawa, kwa sababu sasa nataka tuanze kazi.
Ondoka. Kuna kijana yule mwekundu hivi sijui shombe. Alizungumza masuala ya shamba. Alafu akamuita kando akaenda akamna kama ambaye pengine ataka
kabla mambo nayo hayo tu bila shaka.
Haya ngoja namuita sasa hivi.
Tena toko.
He is one of the greatest players of all time, better known as Diego Armando Maradona of Argentina. He's been there, done that, set records on and off the pitch with his achievements to set world transfer records. And here is his story.
Villa Fiorita is a slum to the south of Buenos Aires. Its one claim to fame, though, is that it's the birthplace of Diego Armando Maradona. Here, in an environment of stunted dreams and social wasteland, football is the only motivation for a youth that have little else to look forward to. You either excel or disappear. There's no place for second best. Maradona was not only exceptional, but an inspiration for others to follow. If miracles could happen, then surely Maradona had been truly blessed.
Maradona era un caso excepcional ya de chico. Era tan fabuloso que yo creí que no era de la edad que tenía, creía que era un enano. Porque en la categoría de él hacía cosas que eran muy superiores para donde estaba él.
Maradona's precocious skills were soon expanded into a dazzling repertoire that audiences marveled at time and again. Despite the disappointment of being dropped from Menotti's '78 World Cup squad, Maradona bounced back in devastating style at the '79 World Youth Cup. A shining star had well and truly arrived.
Yo a Menotti eso jamás se lo voy a perdonar. Le quitó el mejor mundial a Diego.
Para mí fue un fenómeno. Para mí me gustó más que Pelé.
Maradona es un jugador increíble que ha logrado movilizar aún un poco más a los hinchas de Boca de lo que se movilizan por la camiseta en sí mismo.
A world record transfer did little to help an unhappy stay at Barcelona. And the '82 World Cup proved to be an even bigger frustration as his skills were repeatedly blunted by executioners expert at tormenting and intimidating, leading unfortunately to his early dismissal. However, his much publicized move to Napoli was to be a partnership made in heaven and hell, as both club and player had much to prove and sought recognition in the toughest league in the world. Maradona was given free rein to exploit his extraordinary talent with a public that adored him, and he repaid them handsomely. Now the stage was set for his crowning glory. Mexico was without doubt Maradona's tournament in every way. Now more mature and streetwise, he was far better focused than in '82. He took a relatively ordinary Argentinian team and turned them into world beaters, but not without sparking controversy first. The infamous Hand of God incident will remain an albatross around his neck forever. As much as his second goal against England is seen as the greatest World Cup goal ever. That sublime action elevated Maradona truly into superstar status, and to many overshadowed a drab final that predictably saw a Maradona-inspired Argentina run out winners against a defensive and unimaginative West Germany by 3-1. There was no Menotti this time, but a more pragmatic coach in Carlos Bilardo, who can be thankful to have had Maradona at his best.
Y tenemos que estar agradecidos a los argentinos por todo lo que nos brindó y por todo lo que nos dio y por todo lo que nos hizo conocer a nosotros en cualquier parte del mundo.
Como jugador es el número uno lejos, pero lejos, de toda la historia que a mí me tocó vivir en fútbol, de todo lo que conozco.
Maradona es un genio.
Whilst the genius excelled, he also reveled in the notoriety, refusing to draw a line between right and wrong. A hero to many, privately Maradona was already self-destructing, with a rabid media keen to crucify him. Drugs and creeping self-doubt began to erode the talent he firmly believed to be a God-given gift. Returning to his beloved Boca, Maradona's dreams are fleetingly rekindled, only to be disillusioned by increasing signs that he was really human after all, much to his family's sorrow and his own despair. But he still managed to defy the odds, only for USA 94 to add yet another embarrassing nail in his coffin. The drug scandal continued to erupt, implicating his agent Guillermo Coppola before he reluctantly acknowledged his drug dependence and need for serious help. The spectre of Maradona still prevails, though, through his own personal legacy back in Naples. Reliance on one player can be removed easily is debatable, but Argentina's rich football heritage will ensure it remains a major force at world level for many years to come. Aside from the enduring memory of Maradona at his best, one of the most emotive debates in Argentina has been over which World Cup winning side was the better, those under Menotti or Bilardo.
Mientras yo esté en el fútbol, siempre voy a luchar para que mis equipos jueguen este fútbol.
Maradona's contribution to 86 diluted much of Bilardo's strength, other than to demonstrate a more reliable defensive unit than in 78.
But he did entertain as a television host a controversial figure, jack of all trades, with the stints in lawn tennis or boxing. Also coached the national football team of Argentina in 2010 in the World Cup. Despite his success, he battled many problems in his career because of, among others, his political convictions, beliefs, health problems notwithstanding, as he also suffered from obesity apart from his drug-related addiction problems. All in all, for Maradona, his extraordinary goals, his magnificent performances, especially in the World Cup, will live forever in the memories of many football fans, I included.
Good morning and welcome. This is Channel 1 News Check on this 18th of August 2020. Hope you are keeping safe and warm, a chilly and cold morning here in the capital, Nairobi. My name is BenTroy Njue. Thanks for joining us. And today on News Check, we will be looking at the welfare and training of clinical and health workers, and especially now that we are fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, a lot of concerns in terms of equipment and also donations and PPEs, but we will be tackling that with my guest. He's not a new face, but before then, let's have a quick sneak peek of what my colleagues and I are lining up for you today. Remember, we are live on YouTube, on Twitter and also on Facebook. And to our discussion, of course, over 30,000 people have tested positive for the coronavirus in Kenya, and almost 1,000 have been health workers, and of course some have even paid the ultimate price. They have lost their lives. My guest today is not new on this bench. Actually, two or 3 months ago, we were with my guest today, plus also my friend, the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Secretary General Seth Panyako. But today we are with George Gibore, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. Karibu sana, George.
Asante sana.
First things first, I made a sneak peek at your Twitter account. You are supposed to be making a major announcement today. Kindly comment on that.
Yes, we made it publicly that we'll be making a major announcement today because of the frustration that we are actually experiencing in the health sector. However, that has been delayed a bit, but not more than this week. So probably tomorrow we'll be able to come out, or on Friday. So we still focusing on ensuring that we are holding the government accountable and ensuring that they are doing what is supposed to be. More specifically, when it comes to this time that a majority of our healthcare workers are just exposed, and that we are working in a very deplorable situation in the most of the facility. And even as we talk to date, we have a number of healthcare workers in some of the counties that have not been paid for more than 3 months. So it is quite frustrating, and during this time around, where a number of us, and of course the healthcare workers have been infected, some have paid the ultimate price. All of us, we are stigmatized. So it cannot be that there is a deliberate move where the government cannot be able to undertake, or rather do what they are supposed to be doing, and continue abdicating their duties and leaving the healthcare workers to vendor for themselves.
What is the current situation? The last time we were with you, we were talking about 8 health workers had lost their lives. What is the situation right now as we speak?
Ben, to our data, we have a number of around the healthcare workers amounting to a number of 16 healthcare workers who have lost their life. That is across the cadre. And of course, the most who have been affected are the CHVs, the community volunteers, community healthcare frontiers, which we feel that the government has not actually also considered them in manner of supporting them, giving them the PPEs that they are supposed to use while executing their duty. So that is the situation we have, and currently we have a number of 800 and almost 50 now who have been infected.
Okay.
Yes, with COVID-19.
And you had called on the president. The first thing you asked is exempt health workers who are elderly, pregnant, or having existing diseases or conditions. There are some of the requirements that you wanted the government to be checking on at this moment.
Ben, that is very true. That this came immediately when we realized that the vulnerable groups does not exclude the healthcare workers. Those are the people with 50 years and above. Those are the people with pre-existing conditions, that's the comorbidities. Those are the people who we want that they can be excused from active duty from now. And of course, the government has issued a circular to all the civil servants, excluding the healthcare workers. And you have seen them also recalling the anesthetists who are supposed to come back. That's to mean once you have retired, you have an age which now is presumed to be now the vulnerable group. So you are calling them to come back, which we feel that still this is exposing them because they have not put the right measure to ensure that, yes, even if they will be working, there is a proper mechanism to ensure, or rather structure to ensure that they are fully protected from the infection, because a majority of those healthcare workers that have lost their life lies in between those lines that we have, the vulnerable groups. So if at all we have not released them home, and I think the reason why they have not considered this is because first, we have very few staff. According to the staffing norms, the recommended staffing norm, we are not even at a quarter. So if you look at that, they are still holding on them to continue delivering services where they are actually risking their life. Two, we know that they announced they were to employ more healthcare workers. This has not, they employed the first half, but the second half, which was actually supposed to be actualized within 14 days, as Mutahi Kagwe promised, it has never happened. Up to date, a majority of those counties have never employed these healthcare workers. So this is the situation we have. And this is what has been occasioning to a dire situation or other decision that they have been making, where you find like Pumwani, a number of healthcare workers have infected, and you close down the facility because you have no other staffs to continue serving. If at all we were well organized, we'll be having staffs that run the facility, even when you have you have a number of the healthcare workers being infected, working in cohort. That is, you have this staff working within this particular time, then you can exchange them in another 1 or rather 2 weeks, then the other lot come. And of course you continue testing. And now the situation which is frustrating the healthcare workers is that we continue getting a number of us being infected. The healthcare workers are not being tested. The healthcare workers have not been supported by being given the recommended PPEs. So this is the situation that we have. Let me tell you, Ben, the situation that we are undergoing. I work here in Nairobi. The first time I was tested, and of course the only time that I have been tested, I was tested on 27th July. I got my result on 8th of August. Just look at the period.
Around 10 days,
so,
right?
Yes, the result was negative, but I'm wondering, what if the situation was that I was positive and I was still seeing patients?
Yes.
Now we have derailed in terms of the time you take to get the result, and we have a problem in testing of these healthcare workers. So until this situation wasn't, like of the recent past, we got one of us who was infected in Nakuru, only after complicating is when you realize it is COVID, because the healthcare workers are not being tested periodically as the ministry has been purporting to do. Yes.
And you also had recommended that healthcare workers on the front line, the health, let's say the allowance, the appreciation that the government said. And even in the health committee on Monday, while CS Mutai was being grilled, I was there, and something that came up is that there was a huge disparity in terms of the allowances from the doctors to perhaps the cleaners.
Yes.
Yes, and you also had raised that issue as well.
Yes. This is based on fact, Ben. And the Kenyans need to understand that when we have a pandemic, or rather the infection like the one we have, it does not choose your qualification.
Yes.
Now, this is why the president was using the right term, frontline healthcare workers. It does not look at your qualification. It comes and you are exposed, provided that you are working within the limit, or rather within the purview of the hospital Mandarin, whereby maybe you are seeing patient as the first healthcare worker. You are meeting patient without the knowledge of their conditions. You are meeting patients, the number of patients you meet in that in that time that you are working, and also the environment that you work under. Because what we are saying is that, how do you define risk, if at all that's what we need to look at? You have to look at risk. If I tell you that you have some, I inform you that Gibore is probable, could be maybe COVID-19 positive. So I'm cautioning you. At the first time, you'll be taking all the precaution to ensure that I'm not infecting you. But unfortunately, when you are working in the health centers, in the dispensaries, all those are community facilities where the government has not put any resources to support those healthcare workers. The people who works there demonstrate, or rather have mild symptom, or rather without even any symptom. And that is why you find that a majority, 89% of the infected healthcare workers are coming from the lower facility, where we have not been able to concentrate to look on their safety. So we are saying, if we were to consider that, we have a lot of disparity in how we acknowledge and actually support the healthcare workers in terms of their allowances, more specifically the health risk allowance. where we say that the assessment for the risk must be done prior to you, for you to award, because if it is about qualification, it is awarded in terms of your job group, which is awarded in accordance to your qualification. So we are worried that the government has also not taken this into consideration, and that is why we still have the frontline healthcare workers earning zero from what we call the health risk allowance. Some of them, a majority, earning 3,000. But a less few who are actually third in defense are earning more than 20,000 as a health risk allowance. So we have been calling for the government to ensure that they harmonize this salary, to ensure that all of them are benefiting. But Ben, that is not enough. There are people who have been put on punitive contracts, which are quite irregular, do not meet the provision of the Employment Act, neither do they meet the provision of actually the HR manual, where it dictates on which terms you need to get someone on employment on contractual term.
Yes.
So there are people who are paid 15,000, and there are others who and they are being called interns, despite having gone through the period of internship, and now they qualify. The same people who you have employed on the intern are the same people if you actually advertise to employ on permanent and pensionable, they're the same people you'll consider. So you only want the services, but you want to pay people less. So, and again, unfortunately, these people do not have any allowances. We have the other people, like those who have been employed of the recent past under the UHC. They still do not have the benefit of these allowances. So there's a lot of disparities. And this is what we have been calling that the government need to raise to the occasion during this time of pandemic and ensure that they're harmonizing the allowances and the salaries and the terms of employment as a whole, so that you equalize. If these people of the same qualification offering same services can be paid across well, so that if you are on a contract, in any case should be on a better term, because you do not you don't have that security of tenure of serving. So when you look at that, the government is still turning a deaf ear on this. This has not started during this COVID time. It started like now. The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers has been on negotiation for more than 3 years and a half now, and nothing is yielding. But when we are shocked that the money that will have been used, because we are not talking about billion, actually only 3 billion is enough to ensure that we are harmonizing that amount across a number of cadres. So if you look about how much money we have lost during this COVID-19, we are worried whether the government priority is that of improving the public health sector, or just continuing to feed people with just plebiscite or just talking.
Yes.
And this is what we are saying, that we are going to make a major announcement as the healthcare workers. We cannot continue losing healthcare workers because of the priorities of the government. We cannot continue having more healthcare workers being infected because we are willing to serve Kenyans. But under what circumstances we are being pushed to take now action? Because that's what is happening. Look at the time of pandemic when we were raising issues. The first, actually, I think it was around on 29th of March, we announced that I think there was a lot of corruption in the ministry. The health CS said that he had already transferred those people. If indeed he transferred the cartels, who again is continuing to do this corruption in the Ministry of Health? If indeed he means well, then Mutahi Kagwe need to announce that he has been defeated and step aside. If indeed he cannot do that, then let him say that he's a complaisance of the same. And the system, he has been engulfed to into this system. Because we have raised pertinent issues as healthcare workers. He is not willing to tackle them. And that is why you can see we were doing weekly update as healthcare workers on what need to be done. But we found it is becoming useless. No one is listening to us. We were called to a negotiating table under the Minister of Labor. The Minister of Labor now, the CS who was chairing that meeting, had requested for around at least a month. It is more than 2 months because the last meeting we had was on 10th May. We haven't had any meeting since then. Now he has gone on leave. He is on leave. Nothing is happening. He has not given us a feedback, of which he will have said the issues that was brought to us, the dispute that you registered, has not been resolved. He gives us a certificate of dispute not resolved, so that we carry it to the next level.
Yes.
Now, this is bringing actually the pain to the healthcare workers, that even the promising ministry that had promised to settle the issue within a particular time, it has gone beyond that particular time. So that's why we are saying that we feel there's no one is for us, we have to stand for ourselves.
Yes, and still on the same, on the figures, you had talked about rollout of the COVID-19 Health Workers Fund,
Yes.
to provide, among others, comprehensive insurance and also life cover for healthcare workers who die in the line of duty, and especially now that we have COVID-19.
Yes.
Where have you gone with this complaint?
Thank you, Ben, for that question, because that's one of the things we raised before even a single healthcare worker was being affected.
Yes, I remember.
And the second, when we raised that issue, it was said that we need to provide policies and ensure that it is clearly provided under the law on how it needs to be happening. I have been hearing the ministry trying to say that this will be provided under NHF. The NHF Act is specific on its obligation. The NHF Act is very specific on the objective and what it's supposed to provide for. Remember, the NHF Act is membership based. If again, actually you pay today and the next month you don't pay, so you cannot get services from NHF. Now, what we were calling for is a life insurance. I want to remind you, when we gave our healthcare workers to go to West Africa during the Ebola time, they were provided a life insurance worthy 180,000 USA dollars as a life insurance. Now, we have requested that in this case, in our country, we need to see the ministry deliberately moving to ensure that we have a life insurance for the healthcare workers. They said they want to review the Waiver Act, which has not happened. So to date, we have more than, actually now, this is I think the 5th month, and nothing has happened. We have done petition to the Senate on the same, but nothing has happened. So Ben, I ask, how best can the healthcare workers push their issues? How best can we do it? If we have done it in form of petition, and we have done it in form of follow-up letters, and nothing is forthcoming, we continue losing healthcare workers. And of course, as we have been saying, we lost even healthcare workers before they got the benefit of what the president had awarded them, the COVID-19 risk allowance.
Yes.
Because the president said it was to be awarded for the month of April, for the month of May, and June. But unfortunately, a number of counties again have not paid up to date. Yes, some of counties,
for those 3 months.
Nairobi, yes, it has never been paid. There are counties that have paid, but unfortunately, the first healthcare worker to benefit came by with the salary of July. So, where is the priority? And that is where I go back. Where is the priority of the ministry to support the healthcare workers? Because remember, these are the only soldiers that you have during this time around to fight the COVID-19. And the world has demonstrated, and including even goodwill from our own institution in this country, have demonstrated their goodwill to support the healthcare workers. And indeed, I need to be very specific, like Equity Foundation, which has been moving around and supporting healthcare workers. But how much can the Equity do to ensure that all the healthcare workers have? Because most of the time they supply, it is only for level 4, which is the referral facility at every county.
Yes.
But now, if you look at it, is that the majority of the healthcare workers are in the primary health facilities, which now we are having most of the infection. The ministry still do not have that provision to support them. And now we talk of life insurance, which should have been a matter that do not need actually to be subjected to any law. It is a matter of urgency. How did we come with the mitigation measures? Was there any act? No.
it was because of responding to a matter of urgency. So there is no urgency that has been demonstrated, or rather they do not have a priority to prioritize the issues of the healthcare workers. And that's why we feel, if indeed this is the situation that we are being pushed to, the constitution is very clear. Once we are not being listened to, how can we make the government to listen?
And we are going to be looking at the allowances. So the president has talked about 3 months. So we're going to be looking at whether for July, August, September, another 3 months or something has happened. But before then, the civil society leaders right here in Nairobi are having a briefing on the county revenue sharing formula at the YMCA on State House Road. Let's have a look at that.
Capture limited and absent of transparency, accountability, and public participation that, if unchecked, will likely undermine health service delivery in the county and, by extension, negatively affect efforts in the fight against the spread of COVID-19. County Division of Revenue impasse. Service delivery in Nairobi City County, just like in the other 46 counties, is likely to come to a halt. That is, if the Division of Revenue amongst counties settlement in not urgently resolved by the Senate. We note with concern that the Senate is yet to pass the County Allocation of Revenue Bill 2020 in accordance to Article 218 of the Constitution, with arguments surrounding division of revenue concept in the Senate, raising more questions than answers. In the divergence instigated by Kenyan citizenry of political interest, do all the three proposed formulas conforms to Article 203 of the Constitution on equitable sharing of resources? At what point do we draw the line between political and technical aspect in the division of revenue? Does the CRA recommend mandate on revenue sharing add value to the process, bearing in mind the Commission's principal obligation under Article 2016 of the Constitution is to make recommendation concerning the basis of equitable sharing of revenue raised by the national government? To mention but few, as citizens of this country, we compelled to ask to whether the division of revenue installment politically instigated or in the interest of the citizen. Nairobi City County, transfer of county function to national government. Since February 2020, Nairobi City Council has continued to witness tremendous changes, ranging from unprecedented transfer of critical county function, county health, transport, planning and development, public works, utility, and ancillary services to the national government. Disputes, debate, and court cases touching on public finance management issue, whereas the move by the county to transfer the aforementioned function to the national government is acceptable within the law. What remains of concern is whether the due process was followed to the latter. Long-standing county assembly leadership wrangles. Just last week, Speaker Beatrice Elachi resigned from the county assembly, paving way for the election of the new speaker, Benson Mutura, a move that is expected to bring long-standing leadership wrangles within the assembly and between the executive, which has contributed to the delay in passing of the 2020-21 budget, to pave way to the service delivery. It remains our hope that tension within the county assembly and overall county governance will come to a stop with this new change in the county assembly top leadership. Development of supplementary budget 2019-2020. Section 135, subsection 1 of the Public Finance Management Act provides that a county government may spend money that has not been appropriated if the amount appropriated for any purpose that under the County Appropriation Act is insufficient, or a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by the Act. To factor in change resulting from the transfer of specific sector to the national government and to ensure smooth operation of the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, the county engaged in the development of supplementary budget during the month of April to June 2020. That saw cash 2,250 billion allocated to recurrent and 1,250 billion to development expenditure to Nairobi Metropolitan Services. However, whereas the Public Finance Management Act does not expressly provide for public participation in the supplementary budget process, it does not provide for the role of the county budget and economic forum in the county budget process under section 137. It is noteworthy the county budget and economic forum was not given the opportunity to make representation in the process, fundamentally contravening the spirit and letter of the law. Public engagement, governance, and COVID-19. Indisputably, public participation is core in county governance. That is to say, planning, budgeting, and policy development, and hence must be accorded required attention. We note with concern that the concept of public participation has been negatively affected by COVID-19 pandemic. Abolition of public gathering, county public participation forum inclusive is one of the stopgap measures by the government in the fight against the pandemic, meaning contribution of the larger public population on governance and county planning process will largely remain ineffective. It still remains unclear the outcome of the public participation meeting held during the transfer of some county function, as we are yet to access the report, thus raising concern on the extent to which the public forum were considered and or influenced the outcome of this important process. Due to the foregoing reason, the Nairobi public...
That is a live feed from the YMCA offices on State House Road, where civil society groups are raising concerns over the county revenue sharing formula that up to date has not been resolved by the Senate. And of course, they are asking for even accountability. George, health is a devolved unit, and of course, you are also feeling the heat of the counties that have not received, the 47 counties have not received their share of the revenue. Kindly comment on that.
It is a frustrating situation, but I think that this should not be used as the reason why the healthcare workers must be staffed their salaries. And I need to be very specific why we are saying this. Go, for instance, in Vihiga. We have over 700 healthcare workers who have never been paid for over 9 months.
Really?
Yes. The reason is that the county government engaged these healthcare workers. Later on, they wanted to lay them off. And the procedure was done very well. They did an advert, employed them very well. They paid them for some months. Then realized, no, we don't need these guys. But it's not that they have enough. It is change of priorities. Maybe someone needed to do something else where they can build buildings and extort Kenyans. So this is why we are saying that this must come to a stop. We know that there is a clear provision. They are allowed to access up to 50%. You cannot tell me we have already used 50% of the annual budget. It's not true. There is no reason why healthcare workers must be staffed their salary. We do not want to be weighed into this Senate drama. The Senate have their responsibility. Let them do their responsibility. Again, the healthcare workers have their responsibility. And once we execute, we have done our duty, there is a clear provision on how you need to pay the healthcare workers. We need our pay end of the month and not later than 5th of the next month. And that is the law. Once there is if there is any inconvenience, you communicate and do it that we are working to pay within this particular time. But not more than a month, not more than 2 months, not more than 3 months. And this is why we have said, and of course you saw, like this month, across the country, there was salary parade. As much as there was no noise about this, people went home. Facilities were not working. Until they were paid, that's when they go back to work. You cannot force people. I'm not able to cater for my food. I'm not able to pay for my rent. I'm not able to commute, and you still want me to be on duty. And I'm saying this, all the healthcare workers, and of course, more specifically the Kenyans, get to know, healthcare workers will not go to work if they are not paid. And there is no, you cannot actually adjourn payment for healthcare workers. Say you are waiting to do what?
We know that money is there. So pay healthcare workers, expect the duty, expect work to be done. And if that one is not happening, we want to say that we will not be working without pay. And that is one of the most grievances that has been contributing to a lot of strike in this country since devolution. And when we talk about that, we normally now try to wonder whether are we really well structured under the county government? That's a conversation that people should start having. We have proposed that we need to have a well structured maybe institution to run and coordinate the issues of health. And I want to tell you like what has been happening. When you say County B has no beds for maybe ICU, intensive care unit, have got no bed for COVID-19, but the donation came to the Ministry of Health. What the amount I saw they were announcing that they have given to county was 5 billion. That's the amount. So 98% of all the facility are within the counties. So what is the constituency of the national government? Who is the implementer of the policies that we make when we find that they are disowning those policies? So for us, we are saying the issues of the Senate must be resolved, and they be resolved amicably and with a reasoning that Kenyans must benefit. All Kenyans must benefit as one Kenya. My stand, and of course, if I was in the Senate, I will still be standing. I come from Migori. And I come from a community in Migori where we feel that we are marginalized. So it is very bad when a certain region, or rather a certain county, feel marginalized in the country. It is not something that we need to deliberate on. And I have been feeling that instead of wrangling or rather fighting for 316 billion, let us add the money to the county. Then the county will get the money to execute the services that was devolved to them.
Indeed. And before we went for that live feed, you're talking about the allowances. The president did announce a 3-month salary beginning on May, June?
It was
April, May, and June.
Yes.
Now we are in August.
Yes.
Almost the end of August.
Yes.
Was it reviewed perhaps to add another 3 months?
That has been our proposal, Ben. Unfortunately, the government has not responded to any of our letter, actually amounting to around 5 letters.
Really?
Yes. Not even a single one have been responded to.
In short, you do not know whether on July and August you're going to get the special allowance?
We are not sure of what is happening because that was maybe projected that by that time we might be having an answer to this condition. But unfortunately, we are now having the peak time. This is the peak hour. Now, we are saying that this is the time that healthcare workers now are actually bearing the real pain. We are feeling the pain of the COVID-19. It cannot be the time that you cannot consider now the COVID-19 allowance for the healthcare workers. It is not actually supposed to be negotiated. It is supposed to be the government which is proactive, reacting and saying, we have fully considered 1, 2, 3. And even this should not be even just a ministry issue. Should be a security issue. Looking at what might be happening if the healthcare workers feel that we are not supported, we are not feeling comfortable. Then, when, like, for instance, we were sending our military to Somalia, we had to ensure that we have the best equipment ever. We had to ensure that those soldiers are well motivated. We had to ensure that their issues and the securities are of the priority. Where are we in terms of this COVID-19, where the whole world is concentrating on the same, the whole resources of countries are directed to the same? Look at what happened in Ghana. It was 100% waive on tax for all the healthcare workers. You might say that, why did they do that? Maybe is Ghana a developed country? A developed country?
It's a developing country, Ghana.
It's a developing country,
yes.
Where we are. The issue is about priority. Do we have a government that really care for its citizens and the workers? You want the work done, but you never care about what they will eat, what they will have to actually where they sleep. And even, just look, Ben, a house allowance for a clinical officer is 5,000.
5,000.
5,000, a majority. Now, when you grow the ranks is when now it graduates to around 11,000. Are you trying to tell these people can only get maybe accommodated in Madare, Kibera? That's the way you can get a house for 5,000. A person with a family, you give them a house allowance of 5,000. It is very painful. We work under very strained situation. Now, after getting the COVID-19, which is stretching the healthcare workers, you cannot be negotiating to consider the health risk allowance. Just 3,000? Not at all. Not at this age. And this is why we are saying that the government, if they placed their priority right, because what we want the resources in health currently to focus on, because you have heard, is actually like we have now suspended the issues of UHC. No one talks about UHC, which we will have used the resources, a lot of resources that have come to this country to ensure that at the end of COVID-19, there is something to talk about. Now, if UHC is not considered, all the other program, including immunization, no one talks about them. We are talking about COVID-19. But when we come to COVID-19, corruption has taken the huge chunk of the money that we have. In this country, where we want to ensure that universal health coverage has been realized. And we said, if it is not left to the people who want to work, it will be a mirage, not a mileage to this country, this thing called UHC. And of course, it has come to pass. This thing, I cannot expect President Uhuru, unless he has some angels in the ministry, within the next 1 year, because the next year will be periodically will be actually politics. I do not expect, and I do not foresee a situation where overnight things will change and he realizes the universal health coverage. We did the policies. Look at the policies that were implemented along universal health coverage. They were considering staffing, they were considering infrastructures, they were considering supplies. That is governance as a whole. All these things, nothing is now happening. We changed the Health Act. We were actually projecting that there will be a lot of change in terms of leadership on how we and understanding our governance along the health sector. Has that one come to pass? No. No, because one, the priority was not there. Until we ensure that we have the priority right, that we want service first, we will ensure that for those who are supposed to work, have the prerequisite recommended equipment, and even this time PPEs. Then we will be able to say that we are moving toward mileage. But to now, go to the counties that were pioneers of the UHC,
yes,
and get the stories, whether there is any story to tell. If there is story, is it positive or is it negative? That's the fear we have. Now, I come back to that issues of allowances, and we are saying we are specific. We want the government to reconsider the position of where they had awarded this COVID-19 allowance. Let it be shifted to harmonize what we call the health risk allowance. So it has some continuity. And it will address a number of issues that has been there, sitting in the ministry and resolved, and which has contributed to a very huge, a big percentage of the unrest in the Ministry of Health. If that one change, then we come back and look, how do we ensure that we better the terms of employment? Even if it is on contract, it does not presuppose to be discriminative, because there is no way you employ people of the same qualification offering the same services in the same environment with a different term, which is actually a variance of more than 70%. Is this the Kenya we want? How do we support these people? If we want a developed country, seriously, the middlemen must be said to be comfortable, because those are the people who have a lot of dependence on them. Then the people who depend on you are more than the people who depend on those high-class guys. And this is why we are saying that if this cannot be considered now, what time then? If the issues of the healthcare workers cannot be considered now, what is the best time? There is no better time than now. And And I need to go back with what we started, where we started. That I had, of course, did a Twitter on our Twitter account of KUKO, and we said we are making an announcement this week, this today. But we have suspended because we there's something we need to do so that we have everyone on board, including the other players. We will be doing it before the end of this week, and what we will want, not less than what we are demanding. And we want to hold the government accountable and ensure that they are doing what they are supposed to be doing, not gerrymander with the issues of the healthcare workers and continue stealing our funds, which are intended to better the terms of the healthcare workers and ensure that we develop, ensure that we are bettering our structures and equipment.
Yes. And still away from the allowances, and in case you're joining us, this is Channel 1 News Check, and today we are having a relook, actually, of the welfare and training of clinical and health workers. Of course, they have raised a myriad of challenges that they are facing, and of course, they have said that they will be making a very major announcement soon. Away from the allowances, the PPEs, we've seen so many donations. We've seen companies, you've talked about the Equity Foundation, they have come in with a lot to offer, and especially for frontline workers. How has the distribution been? Because one of the issues that you have been raising is the adequate supply of PPEs and other equipment that the frontline workers are using currently.
Ben, that is very true, that we have seen a lot of announcement on donations. The donation that have been done to this country, starting from JACMA, the World Bank, and also we have the WHO, and a number of other players.
Yes.
The problem is that we do not have this donation translating to what we hear on the media, announced, and what we are supposed to be seeing. On the
hold the thought. Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i is appearing before the Senate Security Committee over the arrest of 3 senators who were later released. Let's first of all listen to that. Kabasa, if you can hear me, what is the situation?
Good morning, BenTroy Njue. We are outside the gates of Parliament, and this morning, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, as well as the Inspector General of Police, Hilary Mutyambai, are meeting the Senate's National Security Committee. This particular meeting was supposed to happen on Monday as directed by the Speaker of the Senate, but that did not happen. The Ministry of Interior did communicate to the Senate Security Committee that the CS was not readily available for that request. But Interior CS Fred Matiang'i did arrive in Parliament a couple of minutes ago, around 30 or so minutes ago, and that meeting is currently underway. One of the main agendas of this particular engagement is one day's arrest of 3 senators, Bomet Christopher Langat, Samburu Senator Stephen Lelegwe, as well as Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala. 2 senators have already been released, even though the Samburu Senator did appear before the DCI yesterday to answer to some questions. The Senate is trying to establish the circumstances under which these 3 senators were arrested, but according to what we have received so far from these legislators, it has something to do with the division of revenue formula, which has divided the Senate. For the 9th time on Monday, the senators could not agree on this contentious formula, which is supposed to guide the disbursement of budgetary allocation to the 47 counties. Senators drawn from losing counties argue that the formula is geared, or it is a plot to ensure that these counties which have for years been marginalized are marginalized and disenfranchised further. The current meeting, which is ongoing, chaired by Garissa County Senator Yusuf Haji, is closed. The media did try, gaining entry into that meeting, but the chairman indicated that it is a closed meeting. We are hoping that perhaps after the meeting or before the meeting ends, the media will be allowed to go in and see what is happening. But we do expect, of course, the committee to draw a report which it will present to the plenary any moment, because of course the time is limited, and the speaker did order that that particular report has to be presented before the Senate, and the agenda is to find out why the 3 senators were arrested. And as it currently stands, there is a 12-member Senate committee which was established on Monday as well. This committee is expected to reach a consensus on a win-win situation or formula whereby no county is going to feel left behind in this particular financial engagement going forward. My name is Edward Kabasa, live from Parliament of Kenya. Back to you.
Thank you, Kabasa, for that report. And of course, he's keeping tabs on that closed-door meeting where the Interior Cabinet CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, is appearing before the Senate Security Committee over the arrest of 3 senators on Monday. And of course, being chaired by Garissa Senator Yusuf Haji. We will be keeping a keen eye on that, and we'll be bringing you a much comprehensive report on the same much later. We head back to our discussion where we are looking at the welfare and training, including training of healthcare workers, and especially right now we have the COVID-19. And George Gibore, the Secretary General of Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, is our guest tonight. And earlier on, before we went for that live feed, we were talking about the donations that have been made by not only the World Bank, even we've talked about foundations that have come in. How has the distribution been and the accountability? Because looking at some of the things that you had raised, and also the Kenya National Union of Nurses, is that some counties and some hospitals are not receiving the much needed help when it comes to PPEs and these donations.
Sure, Ben. As you have said, it's very true that this country, in the Ministry of Health more specifically, we have received a lot of funding, which are more of in terms of donation, which has come. And I think I need to go by my earlier statement that this is not translating. Because if you hear that we have received donation worthy this million, you will be able to feel the impact on the ground because we are on the field. However, where this one normally get lost is what we do not know. Remember, like when Jack Ma gave over 250 donation of test kit, it was unfortunate that thereafter, within some few weeks, we were being told that there is no test kit. And some of these test kits are those that cannot be traced where they went. In the structure manner, the ministry had organized itself that all the donation which came in terms of kind, like those test kits, they were to be received at Kemri before they are done for supply. In terms of where do we need this one to be used, or where do we need this one to be used? So that's to mean you are supposed actually to have a tracker that can easily show that we received this, it was channeled toward this county or this facility, and this is the way it was used. When you find that there are questions that do not have answers, and there were people in leadership, and they do not want to take responsibility, this is our big worry. Now remember, this one exposes the healthcare worker. If there was fund directed toward training, to date, we are still doing around 35% of all the healthcare workers in terms of training in matters related to COVID-19 preparedness. Where is our priority? This is after 5 months. Actually, it was supposed to have run within 2-3 months. Every person is trained, not just sensitized. Because sensitization can't mean I just go through what I get on the net and I read through. That is sensitization. What I saw, what you normally publicate through your media, then that is sensitization. But training,
where I do the training and I capture the data that I have trained Ben on 1, 2, 3. IPC, that's infection prevention control, and then the case management, and then you train on also testing. All these packages is supposed to be trained when you are demonstrating. It cannot be trained virtually. Now, when you see them running to virtual, then you wonder where is the priority, because you might not be able to instill the confidence in the healthcare workers on how to ensure that they are able to do those simulations. You do the simulation during the training so that when they are facing the real patient, they are able now to get to know how to do from one to 2. Because the infection comes, if you have not trained me, you might give me the PPEs, but I might not be able to know how to use them, because you'll get infected on when you are doffing the PPEs. I put them on very well. The risk might be not very much when I'm putting them on, but when I'm taking them off, I happen to attach them inappropriately, or rather use inappropriate procedure where I contaminate myself. Then I infect myself. This is contribute to all those. So if we have donation that have not been directed toward the right channel, is contributing to a lot of infection among the healthcare workers and among the Kenyans. Because if a healthcare worker is infected and is asymptomatic, are you not infecting the public that you're serving? Yes. If you're not able to use the PPEs properly, will you not contaminate the people you're serving? Because, for instance, you are taking a sample from a certain patient. Before you take off this one, because there are a number of patients you need to do before you take off the PPE, then you might be able to contaminate if you do not know the proper procedure. Yes, I need to say that we are lucky that a number of those who are serving in the isolation center, for them have been trained. But it is now coming to where we need everyone be trained, because the infection is in the community, and those who are affected much are those who are working in the health center and the dispensary. They cannot be any other way of doing it better if you cannot protect those who are within the periphery. Now, that is how we are being affected if the donation that comes gearing toward supporting the healthcare workers is not utilized prudently. So, and we are calling for the government to take responsibility. Those who are in those positions, don't tell us stories. Take your responsibility. If you cannot, if indeed you did not, and you are there, you are the one who is supposed to manage it. Then you are telling us you are incapable. It is ineptitude in the office. Please step aside.
Yes.
Let's have able Kenyans sitting on those seats. They are able Kenyans who can be able to do that work. If you cannot be able to do it, ensuring that you're protecting your healthcare workers, your staff are protected, your staff have been trained, the PPEs have been channeled toward the right direction. Look at the picture we are portraying in the world. As you steal money intended to protect Kenyans from infection, what kind of humanity are we having?
It's another discussion altogether. But at least we are happy that the DCI and the EACC are on top of things, and we hope that they will be coming up with a comprehensive report.
Ben, I hope that is not supposed to be cleansing these guys.
No,
because we
not at
know
all.
that this has been happening. I'm
Yes,
not trying
not
to
at all.
preempt. It has been there. That you start propping people today, but there is a process of sanitization, then the next day you are told nothing was lost. But currently you can actually see, even a person who is not an auditor, even a person who have not gone to school will feel the sense. If you talk about 167 billion, which has been geared toward the Ministry of Health, will you not feel the impact? 167 billion? And we are talking about the ministry where they are supposed to run, like the counties are supposed to run the counties with only 316 billion for a whole year. Now we are talking about less than around 4 months. A half a year, let me say that. And we cannot trace over 167 billion.
Okay.
It's worrying.
Then, still on the training, this is also something that you've raised in your numerous press conferences.
Yes.
What is the current situation, and especially for the volunteers who are also in this fight,
Yes.
and the community health workers? At least for nurses and doctors, perhaps it could be a different situation. And remember, we have 47 counties, and the cases still rise by the day. What is the current situation as we speak?
Yes, for the documented cases, let me tell you for a matter of fact that the infection percentage is that the nurses, because by virtue, of course, there are many, they have the higher number, followed by the clinical officers. Then we have the lab technician, and now the others.
Yes.
Now, the problem that we have, even as we talk, is that we do not have a clear database of the CHVs. Now, these are the people who have been affected much.
As a community health
Yes.
volunteers?
Yes.
Yes.
These are the people who have not been trained still, and in our setup, there is places where they have been said to be used to trace patient. If you are doing contact tracing using the CHVs, you have not given them PPEs, you have not trained them. What do you expect? The number is high. They could be contributing to a number of these
Infections,
deaths,
yes.
and also the infections. Now, that's why we are calling that the right leadership and the leadership in the Ministry of Health must come with the priority. Priority one is about the welfare of the staffs, because those are your foot soldiers that you need to use to do, or rather to excel in manners of protecting other Kenyans and also offering services. Remember, the worst scenario which will happen is that the healthcare workers feel unsupported, feel unappreciated, and they walk away from the facility. If they feel so insecure, because what happened is that if then you feel that there is nothing you are contributing, no one is seeing what you're doing, and you feel that you are so insecure also to yourself, you will walk away from the facility. That is the worst scenario that can happen. The other thing that will happen is where we do not have enough staff, and at a time we find that there are a number of facilities where healthcare workers have been infected, and we close down facilities. That is the worst situation, worst scenario that we'll be having. Unfortunately, we have now been having scrapless leadership where they are punishing healthcare workers for demanding for the right thing to be done. Let me give you a good case here in Nairobi. I think we pushed for a certain facility to be closed down after the result came 11 days after they were tested. And some of them were tested positive. Then the in charge for that facility was saying, now we cannot say that you are still positive, but you have not tested. The reason why you need actually to take them again, even for isolation and quarantine, is the reason that we need to prove that they are not positive or are they negative. Now, if again, despite experiencing the challenge of delay in releasing the result, you want to pour more pain into them by telling them they continue serving, because the number, the days that the result took, it is warranting that they could be negative. These are healthcare workers who understand now the procedure. Now we wonder if that is happening to healthcare workers who understand the procedure, what happened to Kenyans who are in number of these facilities. The other scenario is where you test people, you don't tell them that so and so tested positive, and they continue serving only to realize so and so was picked for isolation. This is stigma, this is traumatizing. The ministry have now issued guidelines on what should be happening in every occasion. For instance, if I test positive in our facility, and we have been working with Ben, we have been working with all the other staffs, then what happened is that all the other staff must be taken for quarantine within a stipulated time, and they be tested to confirm they are negative or positive. They might turn positive. So if that is the situation, so that we cut the root of spreading this disease. That is the main thing. Now, when you tell people, it's like you are assuming, you are telling people that we did away with contact tracing, and it does not maybe add value. Now, another case is what we have we faced in Nakuru. The chief officer gave a suspension letter to a healthcare worker, a representative of the healthcare worker, who demanded that one of them who had tested positive should not continue serving. They were forcing that person to continue serving. And this guy said, you people must take this person for isolation, and all the staff that they have been working together be taken for quarantine. And they give him a suspension that he was actually calling people to go on strike. This is quite insensitive, and the manner that our country is being run by people who are incompetent and they cannot follow the procedure. They have the procedures that have been provided, and to some extent they are the one who have participated in this procedure making. So when you give us that this is the guideline, and I demand that the guideline to be followed, how does I become a victim? How does I become a malicious? Then this is what we are saying, that let us be genuine. If indeed we have to move forward, we must be genuine. We must support the healthcare workers by ensuring that their security is first, is guaranteed. Then we will now give them the required tools of work so that they continue serving Kenyans. Because as I've said, you can not only inspire my confidence by training me, giving me the recommended PPEs, tools of work, so that I continue to serve. But if you don't do that, I lose my confidence. So if I lose my confidence, I'm also prone to that infection. And once that one happens, you also lose that service that I will be offering for that particular time. So my clarion call to the Ministry of Health, if they mean well, the leadership must start, must stand on the to do the right thing, and devoid of all these politics, use and actually approach the right leadership of the healthcare workers, engage them, because majority of them, we have never had we have even seek to have a meeting with the CS. He said he was to get time so that he listened to the leadership of the healthcare worker. He don't have time.
You mean you haven't met with the CS
in
the last
CS for her
is
such a actually unavailable for the leadership of the healthcare workers. And that is the frustration the healthcare workers continue getting. If at all you cannot meet the leaders of the healthcare workers, how will the healthcare workers get confidence that indeed you are listening to them? You cannot respond to their call, to their letters. You still continue saying and announcing a lot of the work they are announcing every day, moving around the counties, using our resources, is the work done by these healthcare workers you don't want to listen to. And this is the painful thing that we want to stop. If he doesn't have goodwill, we will push for him to have a goodwill with us.
Okay. Away from that for a while, the situation, the current COVID situation in the country, looking at this week, we can comfortably say at least we haven't registered a lot of cases. The CAS yesterday, a man talked about let's not start celebrating yet, because we could be haven't reached the deep end yet. Do you think the situation could perhaps change, or the health workers are quite doing some good job on that?
I want to go by both, because I think we have not, we do not know under what parameters that now we can say the cases are going down, because you have seen the other week what was happening, and I've seen even some of other people saying maybe this is intended to change the discussion because of the raise and the cry about the corruption in the ministry. And I need to say that we cannot say that we are now maybe bringing down the graph. I cannot comfortably say that. And I need to say, in relation to what we are seeing, that the healthcare number, the infected healthcare numbers is still rising. We cannot say that it's coming down. And if you get to know, like if you look in the US, we have lost now close to 900 healthcare workers who have lost their life in line of duty. Now, if you look at other countries which have managed these cases very well, how the trend has been, they have been consistent in what they are doing. Have we changed the trend from last week to this week, where we are purportedly saying the cases are going down? That's what we need to look at. If at all I was in that media, I will be asking CAS Amani to demonstrate that under what circumstances can we say now the cases are going down. Is it that maybe we have reduced the number? Remember, the ministry announced that they have a capacity to test 30,000. How far have we raised from the 1,000 that we were doing on the first week? How far? We have gone to around 8,000.
Yes.
So if we have gone, at least we will have said that we have gone up to 15,000, then we'll say we have done a good job. We have not done a good job. I relate this case to what happened in Malaysia. The first time we were getting the first case here, Malaysia had their cases was 287. But we had a first case here. Now, our cases, as much as we can say, like yesterday it was low, Malaysia is testing is getting 0 cases, and they are testing 30,000 daily. So where is the priority? What parameters, Ben, do we use to say, now I think the graph is going down?
And according to you, still on the same, target testing as opposed to mass testing.
Yes.
We are doing targeted testing. We haven't gotten to a point that we can comfortably say we are doing mass testing.
Yes.
After doing mass testing, as you said, a country like Malaysia is doing, do you think we can have a clear picture of the current situation that we have in the country, and especially for the healthcare workers, which we do not know the exact numbers as yet?
Let me tell you, Ben, I don't know which kind of testing we are doing currently, but I know that when we started, they were clear. The ministry was very clear on what they are doing. We are doing targeted testing, then we changed, we want to do mass testing.
Yes.
We camped places, and you people really aired this. Now today, we do not know. They were very clear how we were doing what we call contact tracing. You know, when you are doing nothing, it is good to keep quiet because no one will still ask. So who have asked whether we are still doing, and at what percentage are we doing the contact tracing in this country? And we as healthcare workers, we have said there are glaring issues around the contact tracing, where you know that your colleague tested positive, has been picked for, and you have not even been contacted, and you are working together.
And you have seen a lot of patients.
Yes, and you have seen a lot of patients. And I told you, I didn't mention this, but I said it in the media last time. We had our colleague in Nyandarua. He tested positive, but after he tested, he got his result on the 11th day. He was still seeing patient, and he was taken for isolation. His colleagues were not taken for isolation, for now quarantine. How many patients did he see that were not traced? So if you are not doing contact tracing, will you say seriously, Ben, that we are now maybe flattening the curve? I'm still worried, and that statement need to be qualified by what parameters maybe the ministry is trying to use, and say that maybe this, and of course the worry of CS Amani will be true, that we might not be able to say that we are going down. We need to ensure that we continue to observe the containment measures which has been put in place by the government. And I think the other clarion call I need to say is that the ministry must be seen to be serious in what they are doing in terms of implementing the policy they have put in place, and those that are actually international that they have adopted to follow in this country. Let us not go the magnification way, and at the same time trying to follow the policies. Because once you mix, then you will be able to be, we will actually be in for a road shock in the long run.
Case study of Mombasa, we can say at least they are doing something that now they are number 3, down from actually they were number 2, now they're number 3. What are some of the lessons perhaps counties could pick to avoid a surge in the number of cases? Because as the numbers rise, so does the healthcare workers who have COVID rise.
I think Mombasa, of course, they have been doing very well. I followed their cases, and there's a time they had activated what we call the sub-counties COVID-19 emergency teams, which were up to the task. And actually, they were doing a lot of contact tracing. So you'll find that we do not rely on the central management to ensure that things are running. And I want to believe that if that was to be adopted, it will be the best thing. And ensuring that even when you have the sub-county, then you can also have the facility, activated teams that are doing works and only communicating on what they are doing. And remember, that must be facilitated. But because now we feel don't have coalesced energy, like a synergy that has been created along what we want to do, you see pronouncement that cannot be qualified, that cannot be supported. So you wonder, like there is a week, I think around the week of around 18th to January, I think there was a lot of question on how the Nairobi are doing contact tracing, and it was realized, actually it was reported that they were doing zero contact tracing. So, and that's why Nairobi will still continue leading. As much as we talk about the population here in Nairobi, is that what measures have we done and what measures have we taken to ensure that we are implementing the policies that we have. So that's the big worry that we have. And as we talk about that, we still go back about how much have we supported those healthcare workers that we want to do all those works that, yes, we realize and ensure that we are flattening the curve. Ben, go out of this Nairobi. I was in Migori sometime last week, and people don't care. They will tell you that is a story being created by the government. Do we still have this in this country? Do we still have people who don't believe that there is COVID? Yes, and a good number of them. Who has contributed to this? I think it is the way we are doing our information. Quite contradicting. How will you have, like the president, going in a press with a congregant, a lot of people? If I was the president, I will not speak to them. I will tell them, go home, observe the containment measure. That statement alone, without actually giving speeches, it will have sent a signal. What will make it so difficult for Malala to address people in Kakamega? Because the president is doing it, the head of state.
Yes.
So this is the contradiction that we create on ourselves, and we continue. Yes, we want to say that I'm not safe until all of us are safe.
Okay. And the home-based care, the CS talked about it being quite a success of late. I've seen a lot of patients discharged from hospitals, but the number who are under home-based care, the numbers keep rising. They are doing a good job. Of course, community health workers have to be involved in the same, or even the volunteers. What can we say they are doing well, and should we scale up perhaps the help on the training for these health workers so that we can scale up the home-based care?
Ben, that is very good. It was a very good idea. However, it has its limitation, and it has a number of other good things that it came with. One, it has assisted to decongest our facilities, because all those people will be put in facilities where we do not have enough.
Yes.
Two, it is also very clear that the people who are left to go for home-based care are people that do not exhibit any symptoms. Then the other thing that you need to get to know is that the challenges that they have been facing a lot of challenges even when they're at home. Remember, even when you do not exhibit any symptom and you have been told you have tested positive, you keep worrying, what if it wasn't? Because of a certain story you had, no, he didn't have any symptom, and it started within a short time and he's normal. So the worry that they have, how much we connect them to psychosocial support, and how much we have the healthcare workers checking on them is what also is worrying. Because I've got very good experience of my friends who, for the whole period, no one checked on them until now. They were tested for the last day and they were told, yes, now you are negative. So this is the worrying story. As much as we want to do that, there is a lot of limitation, but there is somehow we can be able to improve. And now, and that is the clarion call. I think you saw our last media, what we were saying, that the government still need to reconsider employing more healthcare workers, which we gave a number of at least 10,000, who can be able to help actually now support the home-based care. The other challenges that we have is that, like here in Nairobi, we have people who are sharing rooms. If someone tests positive, you cannot take that. As much as they are not demonstrating any symptom, they have ability to transmit the infection. So, and again, you cannot keep them in the same room with the people. So there was a policy that you need to do assessment to get to know that indeed where this person is staying, there is a possibility that he can be able to have a one room to use and ensure that he is able to avoid actually mixing up with the other people in the house and spreading the infection. Now, if that one cannot be able to happen, then there is some hindrance, and that is to say that there are people who come from a certain region, like here in Nairobi. You can't say someone in Kibera, you can be able to allow to go for home-based, someone coming from Mathare. So it is very obvious. However, even when we come now from the village, there are all other places where people don't have any other places, but good enough that the population there will be small. They can choose maybe the other people to use another room, then the others use at least a room. So here in Nairobi we'll be experiencing a lot of challenges, but again, the big challenge is about the staff, whether we have enough staff to support those people who are the home-based care.
Back to isolation center. At least every county has isolation centers that are supposed to have at least 300 bed hospital capacity. The last time we were talking about the isolation centers with your colleague, the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Secretary General Seth Panyako, there was only one isolation facility for healthcare workers at the Kenyatta National Hospital. What is the current situation as we speak?
They have been trying to improve. I think we still need the update. There was a commitment by the Council of Governors to update on where they are. But unfortunately, what has been being was what we found thereafter is that when you what they have been reporting is not the actual thing, because like we got a very serious patient in Nakuru, and we found that already those existing beds were less, and this was one of our colleagues who tested positive and complicated almost immediate. It took a number of hours before he got an assistance. So if at all we look on in terms of how preparedness our counties are, I think we still need to say we are not at maybe 50%, we are still at 30%. Because if we still transferring patient from facility or other county to county for purpose of seeking maybe services, then we are still not there. And the actual thing that we need to assess is that every county individually need to say, because we have had facilities like what I was saying, you saw that on my update on Twitter,
yes,
we were saying that we are demanding still for special facilities for the healthcare workers.
Yes.
That is not available. But remember, they had announced there is facility designated for the healthcare workers across the country. So if Nakuru, of all the counties, do not have, then how do you expect Marsabit to have? So this is the worry that we have, that indeed, when we do pronouncement, is it the real thing that is in the field? So it is unfortunate. Bernard, actually, that one has reminded me what happened in Nakuru, where this healthcare workers was transferred from Gilgil to Nakuru, and he was supposed to be done a CT scan. He was denied the services because they wanted him to raise around 17,000. The healthcare workers had to contribute for him to be done the CT scan. You know, that is a frustration for a healthcare worker. Now, I wonder what about other Kenyans who are not healthcare workers? So the healthcare workers' welfare still not prioritized, but still you need to subject them to a lot of pain, despite even they have tested positive. And the same healthcare workers that I'm talking, that he had to wait for a longer period before he got a bed for ICU.
Unfortunate indeed. We have limited COVID-19 testing facilities, and especially in the counties, making government efforts perhaps to contain and also allocate resources a challenge. Should we ensure that we perhaps scale up the testing capability and the contact tracing, because this is also another big challenge?
Yes, if the priority was to be set right today, I think you'll gear toward that. Once you have the right staffing, and then every county must gear toward ensuring that we are testing a maximum number, not the minimum number. Because once you test, it is when you increase the ability to pick the cases, whether through contact tracing or through individual coming for testing. And now that's to call that every county actually is supposed to have a testing center. Now, but that one has not happened because a number of counties still are not able to test. Now, for Ben, also that one is affecting the quality of testing, because one, remember, once you pick a sample and you take longer than it's supposed to be, you denature those viruses, and also the test, you can either have a negative false, a false negative, or a false positive. So it also influences the testing. So that's why we are saying that if at all we increase the number of testing centers in every county, it will also reduce the time taken to transfer the samples from point A to point B, and also increase the number of testing. I do not foresee a situation whereby if that one is done, we cannot be able now say that we are improving also on, because if we can be able to do that, then we'll be able to show that we are also curtailing our effort, or rather putting our effort toward doing contact tracing for groups and also individuals who test positive. And it will also give confidence to the healthcare workers who are serving. Now, after saying that, I think it is a right time that we need to come back and re-strategize. Look at our strategy. What are we doing right, and what are we not doing right as the Minister of Health? Where we are, and more specifically starting, because it's not about, it's now across the country. Start from like a high-risk region like here in Nairobi. And I don't know whether now we still have a high-risk region, because once it is a community spread disease, every place become high risk. So if that is supposed to be, then we can be able now to start say, we have to start from point A, point B, point C. Then we assess now where we have moved to. But if at all we do not have any parameters we are looking at, is for the purpose of just testing, and making announcement, I think we still are not doing very well.
Yeah, and the government did talk about teams to provide technical assistance to counties on matters COVID-19. Have you been working with as a union and as health unions, have you been working with those technical committee that the government announced that they are placing in counties?
Luckily, yes, some counties, but some counties no. And I do not know, because a majority of the county actually have not involved the leadership at the county level to ensure that they are participating in all the activities of the COVID emergency teams. So those committees, they are not, I need to say assertively, that they are not involving a number of us. Yes, I need to say that, yes, after our push, like in the Ministry of Health, in the capacity building, where we have been raising a number of issues, which start from training. But as much as you raise all these issues, actually let me say we have raised the issues of training and the quality of training, because when you are training, it's not just a purpose of just passing through. You need to be able to ensure that what is the package of that training? What maybe value are you adding to that healthcare worker? And then we have talked about these PPEs, the supplies, and a number of other things. But unfortunately, most of the time, like the issues of training, when you talk, they will tell you that we still don't have enough funds to train, to do the training for the healthcare workers. That is why the training has been quite a snail move, a kind of movement. So when we look at that, we say, as much as, yes, you have been invited to, you are in a certain committee, you wonder whether your input is taken seriously, or rather you are just there just to participate as other things happen. Yes.
I remember also when we were with Seth Panyako here and you, we were talking about a health commission, just like we have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, or even the Parliamentary Service Commission. What are other efforts that perhaps could fortify the fight against COVID-19, and where are we on that commission?
The commission, as you have said, we gave our proposal to the BBI committee, and all the time, and of course a number of Kenyans have also given that because of the challenges they have been facing under the devolution. We do not know where it is. Yes, there is a time we were told that the governors are opposing it, but I think we need to look at it that if at all we need to harness the staff, more specifically the human resources, we must ensure that we establish, whether you call it the SR, as you have said, the Health Service Commission, whether you call it any other thing, but the body that has authority to ensure that it is the one which is in charge of the staffing and all the welfare of the healthcare workers. It will ease a number of activities for the healthcare workers. One, it will be able to ensure that if a healthcare worker wants to move from county A to county B, can be easily be able to move. Today, if Ben, your wife is working in Marsabit and you want him to come to Nairobi, it might take you 3 years before you have that one happening. Remember, we have the body that is called the intergovernmental body, which is supposed to do that, but it's a moribund, it's not functioning. So we are insisting that we need a body that can be able to coordinate and transact all the HR issues related, HR-related issues for the healthcare workers. But that body again, when it is in place, our proposals are very specific that it must be all-inclusive, because in the health sector, we have a diversified way of many cadres that we have, so that no one feel left out, because that is what we had in the Ministry of Health in any case. If we were under the Ministry of Health, it was irresponsive, it was non-responsive to a number of issues of the healthcare workers, where you find, and of course you have heard my good friend Panyako talking about this,
yes,
that you go to the Ministry of Health, everyone is a medical officer. Even a PA is a medical officer. So only in the Ministry of Health, you have over 200 medical officers. What are they doing there? If it's the issues of HR, let's have a HR specialist. Every department have the head of directorate with the other now supportive staff, or rather deputy and the supportive staff. Not everyone being a medical officer. Then you change the perception and you change what is the intention of the whole system. Because the system, if it has to work, must be all-inclusive, as the Constitution stipulates, so that everyone feel partisan. And before that one happen, some people will be feeling left out, and they will be alleging discriminated, and their issues will be barren, because and of course I need to admit that there have been such differences between intercadres, where maybe some people feel that we are not doing better because of a certain cadre, but we have tried to bury that one now, and that's why we are saying that if we have the Health Service Commission coming, we will be ensuring that the structure is that which actually demonstrate all-inclusive. And we are pushing for that. We have not relented, and we are saying if at all the healthcare workers will have to support the BBI, it must have a Health Service Commission.
Indeed. And of course, talking about amendments, you talked about the WIBA amendment.
Yes.
Perhaps you can shed more light. You talked about you want it expedited,
yes,
and relooked at. Exactly what is contained in the WIBA amendment, and why would you want it amended and expedited at the moment?
Yeah, the WIBA Act provide for the compensation of the healthcare all the civil servants actually, who maybe get infection or rather get affected while on duty. But the manner in which the WIBA Act is, it does not provide now for a pandemic, or rather the COVID-19 as we have. So the proposal by the Minister of Labor was to accommodate, now provide for, or rather introduce a clause or a section that now clearly provide for COVID-19. This is not our proposal, Ben. It is the proposal of the government. Our proposal was that this be treated as a matter of urgency, be treated as an emergency thing, and for such, we ensure that we are actually establishing a kitty that will be able to inform on how you can do a compensation for the members who lose their life or after contracting the COVID-19 while on duty, and for those who are survivors. Because you cannot say that you'll only concentrate on those people who have lost their life. We will also look into the people who are survivors of the same. So this has not happened. Actually, we also, last week, I went to the Minister of Health, I was checking on the PS for Labor, that where are we in terms of the review that you people promised the healthcare workers. This is one of the issues that we are also raising,
yes,
that all of them must be able to get, must be able to participate and ensure that we put in place a health insurance for the healthcare workers.
Now that we are talking about amendments, would you like any amendments in the Health Act?
The health amendment, in the Health Act currently, as it is, I think it is hardly a year before it was, as it was amended. I have seen a number of proposals that has been made already by the Minister of Health during this time of COVID by an advocate who is in the Ministry of Health, I think he is called Mwenda, has proposed a number of amendments which is touching on all the health, a number of health act, which is including the NHF, the Clinical Officers Act, the Kenya Medical Board Act, the Nurses Act, and almost every act. Unfortunately, there is frivolous proposal where you have introduced the peers to be sitting in all the councils. And again, there is also a proposal where they are involving, bringing on board a number of other people, like you can be, Ben, today, if you are a wakili or a HR, you can be the chairing of committee, you can be the chair of those councils for those professional bodies. And we wonder, how can I, as a clinical officer, go to be, become a chairman of like the advocates councils? What do I know? So there is no way we will let this one happen, because what we are saying is that for us as professional, we have to regulate ourselves. You cannot just bring someone else who do not understand my practice, who do not understand my scope of services, to come and be the one who is regulating the training, the practice, the licensure, and everything about the healthcare workers. That one cannot happen. And if it happens, if indeed they force it to the government, to parliament, because we have already done a protest letter and we have said we do not need this amendment, we will be able to push it down. And if at all they bring it, we will fight, even if it means that we will stop going to work and come and defend it in parliament. We will call all the healthcare workers to come in parliament and demonstrate that this is not our wish. I do not know, and I want to believe that maybe this was intended to subvert or rather our wish, or rather to change our discussion around, because by that time is when we were raising the issues of corruption in the Ministry of Health. Maybe they intended to redirect our discussion. But however, we did our letter, and we have demonstrated to the CS that there are people in that ministry who will let him down. And indeed, when he continued crying, he must get to know that those people, including that advocate specifically, I have mentioned his name, he need to relook in his what is his intention in reviewing or proposing all this review. I think there could be what we call government initiative to review acts, but there must be substantiated issues, reasons to why you need to amend. Now, like now I can say, the Clinical Officers Council have not been having the council for the last almost 2 years. The reason is the chairman of the council must be appointed by the president. The procedure to have the president appointing a clinical officer to come and chair a council, a very small council, which does not actually draw their money from the government coffers. We contribute to run the council. Actually, it is not even a parastatal, but they made it mandatory through a forceful amendment which was done in 2019. And now they have put it clearly that you have to have a chairman who is appointed by the president. Now the procedure to do that is such a long one. Now, the mandate of the council is to ensure that they include declare of result of the council exams and ensure that they pass the budget of the council. The council now is running without any budget. Just imagine how painful it is. And this is the same thing that the ministry is still proposing, a number of additional people who are not professional, who do not feel the pain of the profession, what they are feeling in. And Mutahi Kago came in, he promised, I think through his PA, he said he's doing it within a month. 6 months down. And when you follow up, no one is responsive. So I think we are so tired about this, and as healthcare workers, we are calling it to, we are saying that it must come to an end. And to come to an end, as healthcare workers, we have our interest. We want to serve Kenyan, and we want that support that they can give us. Let us not be deviated to discuss issues which are non-issue, even during this particular time of COVID. When it comes to time to make proposal for amendment of an act, we will make it at the right time, not at the time where we need to direct our energy toward COVID-19.
Indeed. And as we wind up, I know you have a major announcement coming in the next, you've talked about in the next couple of days.
Yes.
Could we be staring at an industrial action, perhaps a strike?
Ben, if the decision is made that way, yes. And of course, we will not be intimidated by any way, because even yesterday I was somewhere and they were like, you know, these are security issues, you cannot call for a strike. And we want to tell them, if that is a security issue, it will be a security issue for anyone stealing our money from the Ministry of Health. It will be a security issue for you people in the Ministry of Health to deal with our issue expeditiously without subjecting us to untold suffering. It will be a security issue for any sensible leaders to prioritize the issues of safety of the healthcare workers and the supplies along the healthcare the health facilities. So we are saying, in the next few days, the healthcare leadership will be making a big announcement on where we are and where we want to go in terms of the issues that have stalled in the Ministry of Health and in the Ministry of Labor, where they come in by time telling you that we want to. Remember, the obligation of the Ministry of Health, of Labor, is to ensure that they are looking into the issues of all the employees in all the ministries, and participate, or rather arbitrate, to resolve all the issues that are in the ministry. But what do you say, 3 years down, a dispute registered with you, you do not issue a certificate of dispute not resolved, because the Employment Act is very specific. Within this particular time, the ministry must provide an answer. This has not happened. So we are actually telling ourselves, or rather looking at it like they already said it without a word. So we will have to interpret it what it means to us. So, and of course I need to say, Ben, without any fear, that Kenyan must prepare for a hard time, because the healthcare workers are willing to push it through through nails. Yeah.
Indeed, very powerful was, I have been speaking to the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Clinical Officers, George Gibore, and thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you, Ben, and I need to appreciate, but also I need to tell Kenyans that COVID is real.
Yes.
Please ensure that you're observing the containment measure. Keep distance. Use your face mask wherever you are in any public gathering, and ensuring that all the time you're washing your hands and observing all hand hygienes, and ensuring that you do not go to these political meetings.
Yes.
Please stay at home. You can make your life better even tomorrow if you don't lose it today. And it can only be safe if you are safe. I
can only add, and keep warm in this weather. Man, it's cold in Nairobi today. But unfortunately, we are out of time. I've been your host, BenTroy Njue. Thank you so much for watching. Byron Abuli has been our sign language interpreter for this chilly morning. Thank you, and have a good day.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
I have to find another way to separate them. It's too bad Sophia didn't work out. You either help me to separate Fabiola from the mechanic, or I'll tell them you told me. Heard it when Luisa called you by your name.
You're only investing 10% of your total capital. There are times when you have to take risks, and the banks aren't always the best option.
So then what? Should we say yes?
I recommend that you say yes.
In love with Ramon. This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Nimekuja leo kwa sababu ile simu ile uniambia nipeleke mtoto wako. Nipelekea mtoto wako.
Una hakika?
Niko na uhakika na kazi yangu boss.
Okay, sawa. Kwa sababu sasa nataka tuanze kazi.
Ondoka. Kuna kijana yule mwekundu hivi sijui shombe. Alizungumza masuala ya shamba. Alafu akavuta kando akaenda akamna kama ambaye pengine ataka
naye mambo nayo hayo tu bila shaka.
Haya ngoja namuita sasa hivi.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.